Marcus is a connoisseur of anything that's free, so he was happy to read the disclaimer on TurboTax Free Edition.
Roughly 37% of taxpayers qualify. Form 1040 and limited credits only. See how at TurboTax.com. That's me!
File your taxes 100% free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your max refund guaranteed. See if you qualify to file for free at TurboTax.com. See max refund guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, episode 18, where we're talking about why diet culture in general sucks. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to go through little bits of advice and wisdom nuggets, as I like to call it now, and little tidbits and things that you can take with you on your journey in realizing why you don't have to follow the conventional rules of diet culture, and you can find and carve out your own path. And it can be with fasting, again, as a tool. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, where each week I will be discussing all things fasting and how it can become the most valuable tool in your personal toolkit so that you can live a long, healthy, and meaningful life. I'm your host, Vicki Sharon, and thank you for joining me. Welcome. So this week's episode, diet culture. It's such a heavy, stigmatized, we see and think about when someone says the word diet, and the diet word itself, that just, to me, makes me kind of cringe a little bit, and I don't really like the word cringe, but that's what I'm going to use, cringe. So I think when I hear the word diet, or when anybody else really hears the word diet, and we get this immediate, like, it's almost inside, you can feel like, ugh, because we think, all right, it's going to be restrictive. I'm going to have to torture myself. I'm going to be punishing myself for choices. I'm going to need to overly work out or drive myself insane with my food choices and restrictions and things. And it's the inundation of what we are led to believe, that if we want to achieve the perfect body, and that's a whole other episode. But, if we want to achieve this fake, over-marketed and advertised picture in our mind of what's the total, body ideal and what we have to look like, man, that's garbage. That is so garbage. It's so broken and busted. And yes, I know we are making fantastic strides with body positivity, and that's great and everything. But again, I don't want to go too far down to the left over there with body positivity and everything. But I feel like you can feel good about the size that you're on through this journey and that process of internal self-discovery. And you realize through this process how positive things can actually be, and the restructuring of your thoughts and coming again to head and face of what those hard components were that were maybe giant freaking walls that were keeping you from thinking and feeling the way that you've always wanted to think and feel about yourself, from looking down at your legs to looking at your reflection in the mirror. And I can feel myself getting choked up already. And we're just in the not even first 5 minutes. Oh boy. And the way that you don't have to look at yourself as busted, broken, or damaged, like conventional diet culture will tell you that, you're not beautiful or handsome or gorgeous, hot, sexy, whatever, until you meet this, cookie cutter ideal. And that's fucking, sorry guys, but that's fucking broken. That is such a sick, toxic mindset and just thought process that is just pumped out in mass by conventional diet culture. But again, to kind of start off on my tangent here, we're peeling back these labels. Why do we even have that ideal to begin with? Where is this all coming from? If you look at all the little underlying reasons of why you're being blasted all this stuff, they're always, sorry guys, this is going to be, I probably should have said it at the beginning, but this is not untethered, but Vicki unfiltered to a reasonable, appropriate degree. I'm just going to throw that out there. So be prepared for appropriate swearing, as I call it, because this I don't want to say grinds my gears, but maybe a little bit. So that underlying, you peel back all these layers and layers of why we're being shown all these bikini women and, lumpy abs studded men all greased and oiled. Like, why peel back all these labels? They're trying to, sorry guys, again, they're trying to fucking sell you something. It's always an underlying reason. Like, what is their motive? Is it a shoe, a lotion, a powder, a patch, a pill, some bullshit that make you think that in order to achieve this preconceived idea, notion, beauty, handsome, whatever ideal of those perfect bodies for your weight and size or whatever, that you got to buy into this shit. Like, it needs to go so much detached from that. We need to break away from it as a culture, and, to not feel like you have to be part of that collective group of people that does this workout program or does this fad or magic pill or drink or powder. Like, I want to just wet noodle smack. Like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. So a lot of this, I have my little research paper here for those on live. You can see my little scribbled notes, because when things come popping into my mind and fills me up with inspiration and motivation to share and discuss with you guys, I scribble it down right away, because that's what I do. So I really think that diet culture in general, there's so much of a behavior component to it that, I say diet culture meaning the companies and services, et cetera, that are out there that, of course, on the surface, they're going to say, we care about you, we care about your health, and we're going to motivate and inspire you. But buy into this for $19.95. This product will get you to where you need to be. That's fucked up. That is so messed up. When we need to remember, as I've said many times before, coming into any kind of self-healing, self-repair, fixing kind of process, where with weight loss and means and attempts to better our health and body size and physicality and everything from head to toe, it's a full investment to our own health, where we need to realize what our internal sources of motivation are coming from, why we're wanting to do this in the first place. Again, getting really uncomfortable with those inner thoughts, feelings, and things that have just felt like we've been stuck or stagnant in this position for so long. And playing the victim is something that I personally know, because I've been there. I've seen family members, and again, not to name drop or nothing, but my grandparents, that was a really, really constant habit of theirs. They stayed stagnant and still, and they had extremely sedentary lives since my mom passed away. And I believe for about 17 or 18 years, they led extremely sedentary lives, playing the victim, and that mental verbiage that I know they shared, obviously in conversation with each other, but the way that they let their behavior and mentality just affect everything in their life, and how all of that piles on to the way that your total body health is affected, from your hormones, your immune system, everything. And it can absolutely wreck you. And in my opinion, and like I said, I've seen it, it can kill you. And it's really hard and messy. And it's so easy just to, I'm sorry guys, we're still only less than 10 minutes in and I'm already getting choked up twice. This is a heavy topic for me. Playing the victim allows you to just give into just shitty habits and taking no responsibility for your health, pacifying yourself with choices and options, because society and diet culture says if you don't stay strict to the letter and the T, then you're a failure. You failed. You didn't do it right. And then we hear from friends and family, oh, you tried that and didn't work out again, did it? And then you go beating yourself up again. And that victim mentality just stays and it stays. And that is a hard, dark, messy place to stay. And I don't want that for any of you guys. I've been there. I've seen other people be there, regardless if they were intending on trying to lose weight. But I know both my grandparents at a time were wanting to get my assistance with, things that I was trying at the time. I know we tried, I say we, me and my late husband tried. We were pretty successful. We did juicing for a while. That was really great, amongst other things. And yes, there were moments of, weight loss and things turning the tide around. But it usually was a monetary factor that ended up from keeping us to continue on further. But I know with, like I was just talking about with my grandparents, seeing them want that kind of, that commiserating experience with each other and perpetuating on the negativity of why it's, taking so long. Why is this not, it's overly restrictive. So I want to do what I want to do, that playing the victim, not taking responsibility for parts of their health, that these serious health issues that come up in our life, that usually are the reason why that we make every conscious, deliberate, intentional effort to shift and make our health the better. It's unacknowledging and not taking responsibility for things that we need to be taking responsibility for, and getting uncomfortable when things are hard, and just realizing like, yeah, I can do this if I chip away at it a little bit at a time. Is it going to be a better, it's much better mindset than to just, give into and feel stuck. If anybody ever says anything to you, like I was told when I was younger that you'll always be this size, or, it's just, you were born this way with, in your regards to your weight, guys, and born with just a larger body size, or it's genetic in our family to be big. Like, oh my gosh. I'll tell you what's common in that respect. And I heard a line, I want to say it was like many years ago. When somebody says like, oh, big boned or obesity, whatever runs in the family, I just say like, oh, really? But you know what also runs with your family? Everybody's feet under the same table. So think about that. It's a behavioral. It's so much of a behavioral component that we're not acknowledging with general diet culture. And it's infuriating, absolutely infuriating. So I feel that with the diet culture in general, like I was saying before, that almost, at least in my point of view, my jaded, youthful, obese point of view, where my thought process was, because I was the bigger girl, obesity, everybody that's fat or bigger, like, ugh, don't hang out with them. Ugh, like, oh, Vicky's the big girl, don't hang out with her. No. Because I felt so alone, that only made me want to go home and stuff my face even more. I closed my eyes, and as I'm saying these words out of my mouth, I remember coming home to where I lived back in New England, and literally I can feel and remember walking through the door, knowing where the foods that I wanted to eat were, if I hid them away or stashed some away for myself, or how long it would be until somebody got home, and how much I could eat to make myself feel better until somebody, quote unquote, busted me. And really how much I could get away with eating away the whatever painful feelings I was feeling that day before anybody caught me and I got in trouble for it. And just thinking that there's so many of these like stigmas with, I keep getting these waves of emotion because I still feel like I remember everything still so vividly, and as we absolutely should, because it'll give us even more appreciation for where we're at. No responsibility being taken for the decisions of what to do when we're in this moment and we feel like we need that push. We need that push to figure out, okay, I know I've got to do something. Obviously, in this respect, we're talking about fasting. In conventional diet culture, going to the doctor and just taking their word as an end-all be-all and not feeling like you have the internal drive to figure out, okay, I got this way because of emotional eating. I got this way because goodness gracious, this is going to be like a continuing interesting episode. I'm sorry, guys. My emotions are like a little scattered right now, but not knowing what to do and feeling like that you have, sorry guys, no control over the decisions for your body, and feeling like if a family member or a friend tells you, that your only option is to get like weight loss surgery or to try some insane pharmacological interventions like phentermine or, gastric, whatever. If you're being forced and told options of what to do and you don't feel like you want to participate in any of those, you don't need to be forced into that stuff. And this is, again, diet culture thinking that we have to fit into a certain, if it's got to be calories in, calories out, to a very, very minor degree, is that the hyperfixation. This is like really teary. The hyperfixation that we have in this culture that it has to be perfect food choices all the time. You have to constantly measure them out in order to achieve success. That you have to follow exactly what your doctor tells you to do and eat right and make sure you're working out like crazy. Make sure you blah, 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 blah. And not taking into account at all what's going on, like, Wizard of Oz when they say, don't pay attention to the man behind green curtain. Well, your thoughts, your emotions are the man behind the green curtain. And it's going to be messy back there if we don't kind of recalibrate that thought process and the verbiage and words that spin that feed into why our behaviors are the way they are, why we can't stick to, I guess, quote unquote, I say this loosely because I, don't agree with it, the regimented, I can't speak tonight, this overly structured food choices, and we have to eat only the list of foods from this program printed out like this, and we have to measure them exactly to this ounces and this many cups, and only can have it this size and this measurement. Guys, if this stresses you out like it does me, just talking about it stresses me out because I see the images, I see the pictures, I remember the feelings of feeling like it has to be all measured out, has to be perfectly weighed out, and you have to track it, and you have to write it down, and you have to just make sure it falls under a certain metric. Yeah, to a very minor degree, you should be paying attention to that stuff. But I feel, and again, this is my personal opinion, you could take it, you can leave it, you can look at it, wave as you're walking by. I personally feel that this hyper obsessive fixation with feeling like we always have to count and write down and obsess about every single tiny little nuance with the foods that we're eating, how we cook it, what we're doing for working out, there's so many other components of our life between emails and work and school and personal home life and kids and all this stuff. And this hyperfixation with our food choices. Yes, I get if you're making a recipe, but my personal opinion is using common sense when you're making these food choices in general. We know the difference between a very healthy choice of obviously like a head of broccoli. Like I think about a piece of broccoli right now and I can feel the saliva forming in my mouth and it's making me hungry because I could just taste the broccoli in my mouth already and I don't even have anything in my hand. We know the difference between a piece of broccoli and a cookie. Obviously, we know which choice is going to be healthier for us. But I'm going to challenge that thinking once more to say, in dedicated weight loss efforts, with integrating fasting as a lifestyle, with integrating a compassionate, open-minded growth mindset where we are conscious, aware, practicing meditation and really, yes, self-love, but also remembering that this process is about progress, not perfection. To say that piece of broccoli and that cookie, you can have them both on this journey. Now, the verbiage switch that I'm going to give you, here's a little wisdom nugget for you. I've said it before. If you've listened and heard this already mentioned, we're going to go a little bit more in detail. Okay. So diet culture will tell you that's a bad food. This is the good food. You can't have this. You can only have this. My challenge to you is to switch. Make a switch right now. If you take anything away from this episode, take this. This is your little audible souvenir. Instead of saying bad food, well, good food and bad food, you're going to say an all the time food instead of good food, or a sometimes food instead of your bad food, right? So that switch from saying this is a food I can have sometimes, this is a food I can have all the time. Either way, you're saying you can have both. Because when we tell ourselves, or when diet culture says, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can only have this, it makes us, honestly, our brains react the same way a kid does. If you tell a kid and they see a plate of cookies sitting on the counter at home, and they say, ooh, that looks good. Mom, did you just make those? And I'm like, yep, I did. And they fixate on it, and they fixate on it. And I say, don't have a cookie. If you're a kid, what word did you not hear? Don't. Kids will hear me say, don't have the cookie. So of course they're going to hear what they want. They'll hear what they hear. They don't always hear the don't. Okay? Your brain works the same way. If you've ever heard of the law of attraction, okay, if we say it or if we think it, we say, don't have the cookie. We are going to want to have the cookie. So what we put out there is what we're going to get. Right? So when we hyperfixate on what we're not allowed to have or what we're missing out on, it only makes us obsess about it even more. So getting back to the sometimes and all the time. So when we say a food is an all the time food, that means you should be wanting to have this anytime, all the time. And seeing that you can have also your food over here sometimes. Now we got to think, we've all heard the saying, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Okay, we know that. A lot of us have heard that before. The same thing, if you flip it, and I was having a conversation about this with my kids the other night, and I was like, I got to remember this for my podcast. So obviously we know too much of a good thing is a bad thing. However, but too much of a bad thing is also a bad thing. What? Think about that for a second. Did you think about it? Okay. So when we feel like we're either too tightly structured, we want that indulgence, right? We want that treat. We want that cheat day, whatever. So if we overly restrict our diet choices on one end, we're going to crave, you can't lean too far in one direction. So if we're leaning too far into the all the time food and not allowing for the sometimes food, it's going to make us go, we want to go the other way. And then if you're having the sometimes food all the time, your body's going to be like, why are you putting all this processed garbage in my belly? You're going to have all kinds of everything going on, inflammation, you're going to be a hot mess, okay? So you go too far into the every day is a cheat day. Woo, we're living like, bougie Rockefellers. Yay! Pizza every day, burgers, takeout, Chinese food, whatever. Every day. And especially if you're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks and all that stuff in between, your body's going to be like, whoa, girl, pump the brakes. We're on overload because the skin will continue and store. She's storing for later. We're storing snacks for later. It's like everybody just attaching more and more Ziploc bags of bodily energy on your body, which, body fat. And it just gets bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you're like me, like I was, and tipping almost 400 pounds and looking death square in the face. And I don't want that for any of you. And I can feel, tears bubble up a little bit. So I'm going to try to hold it back. So we don't have to overly restrict our choices. We don't have to go too far over to all the time food all the time or sometimes food all the time. Is that too much of a mind bender for you? But seriously, staying in the middle. And I would say probably, yes, middle, but maybe a little closer to the all the times, middle to all the times, that's a happy place to live. And you can bounce back and forth all around in there. And you can be like, yeah, I want to go a stint of like all the time food. And this is great. And I feel really good. And you're vibrating really high over here. And then sometimes we get hit by the Funkasaurus volcano. I just made that up. The funky volcano drama of life. And it brings us way down into the sometimes. And we're eating the sometimes foods all the time. Your pizzas, your indulgence, your cookies. You're maybe having dessert for dinner, or you're having dessert for breakfast. Who knows? Maybe you're having fries 3 times a day like I was. Maybe you're sneaking bags of Easter candy and stealing them from your kids for every single holiday like I was, or whatever. And you are way deep in the emotional, mental roller coaster, and you can't pull yourself out of the sometimes food, and you're feeling stuck, like you can't find any enjoyment to get to the all the time food. And that push and pull and back and forth and the mental relationship that goes with that, this is something that, again, diet culture in general doesn't want to acknowledge, doesn't want to touch upon. A lot of it we know, probably, I like to think maybe probably, would assume that we know that there are foods out there that are addictive. Obviously, the one that just comes to mind instantaneously, because I have kids, and if you have kids too, you're probably like, yeah, girl, I hear you. Sugar, okay? Sugar, I feel like is... I could go on a whole episode tangent about sugar if I wanted to, but it's not going to be this episode. Maybe another time. Whenever my kids have anything with sugar in there, I give them, like, the same way I have a disclaimer on the end of this episode, I give them a disclaimer every time that they go to eat it. And I say, all right, it's almost like we get into an oral contract before they eat their food, and it helps. I say this like, well, they know I'm like kind of joking and stuff, but in all seriousness, I let them know they need to be responsible and aware of the reaction that sugar gives their bodies. We all should. We all really should. More than just like the, hey, I'm a 9 and 11-year-old boy or little girl, and the sugar just lights up my brain. Okay, that does it one way, obviously, in kids. But as adults, it doesn't always, it does and it doesn't. So obviously it hits our bloodstream and we're like, oh yeah. There's so many other things also that happen, and it makes you crave more, feeds the addictive behavior up here for more of that, or similar foods like that, or just, it keeps you way too far to the sometimes side, and we want to pull you back to the all the time food side. Because you can have both, but it's remembering, okay, I know I'm not going to feel great. My headspace is going to be all wackadoodle. Yes, I just said wackadoodle. Your headspace is going to be like all off kilter. Maybe it makes you feel like not productive. Maybe it makes you sleepy. Maybe it gives you a sugar coma. Maybe it brings you up really high and really. These are things that we need to think about right at the forefront. If somebody's like, hey, Vicky, I just made a batch of cookies and I brought them into work today. Do you want to try some? And I think, all right, in my mind, how did the rest of my day go up until now? Have I broken my fast yet? Okay, no, I haven't broken my fast. Maybe I would save those. I'll take one of them and I'll save them and maybe bring it home to have. So I have it like after I have and break my fast, kind of sort of thing. So you can allow that participation in whatever special event and making things work for you. Again, breaking away from that thought with how diet culture tells us that we have to, punish ourselves and stay way over here and only eat the healthy stuff, or we're, failing miserably, or we are just lazy and we have no self-control, as, if we can't succeed, then we're lazy and we have no self-control. Yeah, because that's really how it goes. And, if they wanted to dig into it deeper, they would find that there's a whole bunch of mental behavioral components that are, play into this. But on that same token, the foods that these companies put out, they know they're addictive. They know that children's brains light up with the reaction with consuming sugary kind of treats. That's why they come out. That's why these companies make what they make. That's why they make revamped versions of favorites. So they just, they keep them hooked. They keep you hooked. They keep you a consumer for life. And a great example of that is soda. Many of us are addicted to soda. Many of us started addictions to soda or carbonated, juices or fruit juices and all that stuff since a very young age. And diet culture, of course, will tell you, obviously, you make sure you need to drink plenty of water, which definitely do. My biggest another little wisdom nugget for you. If you are one of the many people in the world now who find yourself addicted to soda, I'm going to highly suggest you can start weaning yourself off if you've ever tried any kind of sparkling waters of any kind. And there's so many different options out there. There just continues to be more. And there's different flavors. Side note, I'm not sponsored, but I would love to be. That would be great. By SodaStream. I love my SodaStream machine. I use it multiple times a day, and I just use regular water, carbonate it. I don't put any flavors, but when my kids do theirs, they like to put flavors in there, or and I say flavors, it's more of just like an essence sort of thing where they just put I want to say one's pineapple, one's strawberry, or something like that. And I take sips of theirs every now and then, but I'm old school, my bottle right here. I actually prefer just the plain, unflavored, just general basic kind of thing. And it's carbonated, and it's really good, and it does provide that satiety factor that the carbonation with soda and those beverages bring, but without all that sugar syrup that's in there. And my kid's new favorite word is sugar syrup, because it's just when we're walking around and stuff, or they'll ask me for different beverages and they'll say, oh, this has too much sugar syrup in it, right, Mom? And I'm like, usually, yeah. So yeah, the addiction to food, why is it there? So like I said, these companies want to sell us stuff. They want to make sure that they make their bottom dollar, that they stay in the black, right? And constantly coming out with revamped versions of old favorites, like we've seen through our lifetime many times, of the Coke, the Pepsis, all these soda products, new versions of that. And that addiction obviously helps the companies make money. It keeps you a customer for life, so they know they're never going to lose you if they have you addicted to their stuff. And the addiction just spawns and spreads. It perpetuates again and comes back to feeding that thought process in our mind of, we are addicted to this, we can't break away from it, that we develop those, even if we try our best efforts to kind of pull back and pull away, because of the way that these products are made, our brains become hardwired addicted. The same way that hard drugs, you have there's real addictions to these beverages, just like hard. I don't want to get flagged by Big Brother here, but these hard substances, the way that addictions are the same. The same with the sweet sugared sodas, candies, foods, sweets, fried food, whatever. These additive chemicals in the food feed and keep you a customer for life. And obviously the companies are happy. They love it. They know that you're going to be a customer for the rest of your life unless you break away from those habits, right? And this is where I would kind of come back to touching upon any form of meditation that you can tap at. And I'm not going to go too much into meditation because I did a whole episode on it already. I'll do another one if I need to. But really identifying when we are having this trigger or pull. Oh, I need something sweet. Oh my gosh, I usually have this at some time. I usually have this. Or when we're in maybe an overly restrictive diet, right, where we're trying really hard to lose weight and there's temptations coming us left and right. And of course, maybe externally you just say, my willpower. Oh, I didn't have willpower. I'm going to challenge that, because chances are there was some kind of deeper hormonal ping or need that was not being met. So I'm going to challenge you. I put a lot of homework and wisdom nuggets in this episode. I hope you're picking up on them all or taking notes. But when we are in these moments of being triggered or feeling like, oh, I'm going to break when I shouldn't, I'm going to break with something that I probably am going to regret later, or I'm going off the rails, Jesus take the wheel, I'm going off the deep end here. If you find yourself in that moment, I'm going to challenge you right now to pause your mind, to immediately call out and identify, almost like the siren alarm would go off when you go out of a store and the shoplifter or the sensor's left on the shirt or whatever. Like stop and halt your brain, halt your thought process and think, what is this trigger right now? Why am I feeling this way right now? Identify it, remove the, I want the cookie, or oh, that chips looks good, or oh, the ice cream, I know we have that in the freezer. Pump the brakes. What's going through your mind right now? What is that? What is the driving force of why you're feeling this way? If you can get up, walk around, move around to jog in your mind, why am I feeling this way? I guarantee you it has nothing to do with the food. There's some kind of underlying need being met. And when we are able to identify that, whether I'm feeling really stressed and I know my habits in the past, or when I feel like this, I go grab a couple pieces of chocolate and I come right down. Okay, well, if you want to rewire that behavior and not stay eating the chocolate every time you have that response, get up, move around, change your view of where you're at. If there's something immediately in your vicinity that is stressing you the fuck out, get up, walk away, phone a friend, right? Millionaire, phone a friend, step outside, take a drink of water, recalibrate your environment at that moment. Because if you remove and kind of like, hey, maybe where your brain is going onto screensaver mode where it's like bing, 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 and it's got like that Windows 95 windows bopping all around, and you're like, oh my God, here we go, we're going stress mode activate. Your default setting, because we are creatures of habit, your default setting is going to say, okay, girl, when we feel this way, we go to the cabinet and we get those chocolates and we feel great. Well, if you don't want to keep going to the going to the pantry to grab the chocolate to feel better, you have to identify it immediately when that feeling comes and find ways that that you can take proactive action to fix it, rewire it, recalibrate it. And this is not something that's going to be easy. This is not something that's going to be immediate or permanent at your first attempt. This is something that's going to take time, and it's going to take dedication, persistence, and honestly, it's going to sound fucked up and weird, but you have to love this struggle. You have to love that your body is in tune like this, and you're able to identify, cool, I'm being stressed the fuck out right now. I need to get up, walk around, because when you are you're disassembling the tangled up Christmas lights in your brain of your thought process. And when you untangle that and you're like, all right, now I know where this little dead light bulb is coming from, you can go in and change it and make it work the right way that it should. Because your default setting in your brain shouldn't say, oh, I'm stressed, that means chocolate, go grab it. Or that means French fries, go make it, go buy it, go have it. Identify it, dismantle it, crumble it up, or if it's a mental weed, flamethrower, machete, whatever mental imagery destruction process you can do and tap at in that beautiful head of yours to dismantle it and to not let it take hold and have power over you. Okay? I'm going to give you a big hug. There's one other thing I want to cover before I'm going to take a quick drink of water because I'm feeling really amped up. So I know I just talked about addictive behaviors and food and fixations with food and everything. But there's one other thing I want to talk about before I wrap this up. So, yes, we know there's addictions to food, but there's also an extremely unhealthy, I can feel tears coming and I haven't even said it yet. An unhealthy addiction and hyper fixation. It's not just a regular fixation, it's a hyper fixation with numbers and numbers of clothing sizes, numbers of what you are on the scale, and why that number has so much power and significance to dictate and establish your value, your success, and how really with anything, with this life and process that you've got, how it takes hold and has so much more meaning than your actual intent, than your actual process, that this hyperfixation in our culture, in our society, with having to be at a certain size, having to say, I need to lose X amount of weight. I know I need to lose X amount of weight. Okay, it's one thing to say, I know exactly what weight I'm at. I know my fluctuations. I know where I feel comfortable at a size. Like right now, if you would ask me like 6 years ago, hey, did you know in 6 years you're going to be a size 10? I would be like, oh yeah, fuck no. No, there's no way. But if I were to say, okay, I'm going to hyperfixate, I'm going to be a size 10. I need to be a size 10. If I let that take precedence, or if I let the hyperfixation of, I need to be at this weight in order to be happy. I need to lose 5 more pounds. I need to lose 20 more pounds. Yes, I know for the most part, if we have those fluctuations in our weight, we know what weight we were at before. But what I'm kind of dancing around here is that when we don't meet those preconceived, rigid, kind of structured rules for ourselves and expectations, that causes so much just it's almost we've stopped before we've already begun, before we haven't even begun rather. And that obsession with needing to be at a certain size. And again, like I said, I know it's not the end all be all, but the body mass index scale, if you haven't checked that out, it's definitely something to be aware of. I say that loosely. Be aware of what your BMI, but know that your body mass index is a range. Like, of course, it's going to give you like a percentage, and the healthy range is, I say that with finger quotes again, healthy range is from 18 to 24.5, I think it is, or 24.8 rather, now that I think about it. But where I was when I started as obese, well, technically I was morbidly obese when I first started. I think it was either in the high 40s or low 50s. So to know that I've come from that number down to the last time I checked last week was 24.5 was my BMI, which is great. So I know I'm holding. It's, if you're the type of person, again, like I just talked about with that hyperfixation and the number dictating, your value and how you see yourself and you treat yourself, 18 to 24, it is on the higher part of the BMI scale. But honestly, I feel awesome. Like, I don't feel like I'm at the high end because I've been at the high end for my weight my whole life. So what the fuck does it matter if I'm at the high end of the BMI scale? I knew when I shed the over 200 pounds, I got to where my BMI was 23, I think it was like 23.1. And I was like, I don't like it here. I did not feel like that was where I wanted to stay. And I think that is something that we all need to, again, with that self-awareness, as I've said in previous episodes, when we wake up and we take inventory of our body every single day. How do I feel? Like, more than just the physicality, like how am I feeling body, like body scan, And then when you get to your head, that's why I like to start at the feet first, because I want to leave as much time and thinking and recalibrating mentally with like mental headspace. So I do my body scan. I start at my toes, and I come all the way up. And when I stop at my head, I think like, okay, what does the day look like for today? Am I hurting? Is there something I can do for myself as soon as possible before my feet even hit the floor that's going to just kind of help me like put the day into the right mode? I usually take a few quick breaths. I always keep my bottle of water beside my bed, and just as a personal kind of maybe like tip, anecdote, wisdom nugget for you, keep a glass of water, bottle of water, something by your bed. It should be the last thing you do before you go to bed, and the first thing you do when you wake up is, I would say, aim for an 8-ounce serving upon going to sleep, and then when you wake up, again, it's that like helping the body just kind of ready for sleep and like winding down, and then obviously wakes the body back up and like, hey, here's your life sauce, like let's go baby, like let's get the day. The more you can kind of have that hydration obviously coursing through your body, we want that, we want to be hydrated, that is going to just, for me, when I have that as part of my morning routine, it's just incredible, kind of like just, all right, I feel just like liquid life just going through my bloodstream, and it's great. Sit at the edge of my bed for a couple moments, and I go ahead and start about my day. But the mental inventory that we take on ourselves, start at your toes, go all the way up. Think and almost imagine like you're going through the emails of your brain. Like, all right, what do I have coming on today? What is something like, oh, I have to do this? Kind of go through what it is mentally for you. I know a lot of us may even have like your to-do list of the day. I wouldn't even touch that yet. Like, don't go to your phone upon waking up. Don't go to checking your to-do list. If like, try really hard if you can to not immediately wake up and feel like you have to go and check your phone right away or go and check your list right away. Like, give yourself some time to appreciate the waking up process, and, you know, take a couple moments and just be like, good morning, like, good morning, self, like, hey, Vicky, I see you, like, have a great day. Give yourself like a couple moments, enjoy, like, if you're going to do anything mentally, emotionally enriching as your part of your wake up process, my go-to is always obviously water and putting on a little bit of music to get you kind of either pumped up, chilled out, whatever tunes work best for you. Let it go. Like, if you can't go too high, you know, maybe put your earbuds in, whatever. Don't go scrolling on your phone. We need to get like hyped and ready for the day. That also is part of that recalibration of that headspace process, and honestly can put you in a fantastic mood for the rest of the day. So, and that's going to also help to establish these moments of positivity, better habits, and pull away from, you know, maybe you were also one of those people who loved to check your weight every morning, right? I had been there for a little bit, and then I saw that it was becoming a problem. So I nipped it in the butt as quickly and efficiently as I could. There are still times where I'm like, oh, I need to see what number I'm at. And then I immediately, like we just talked about, I think, why? Like my brain is like, why? Why do we need that? Why? What's the reason? Well, I'm just, okay. I know my clothes still fit me. I know that things are still good. I know I'm still maintaining, like, no problem. I know my balance is good or whatever. I would say if there are times that I check it, this is going to sound really weird, and this is going to be like one of the last things I say. I actually check it when I have moments of like more sometimes, because I still have like moments where I indulge and I have what I want. In those moments, I say, this is my, I'm having what I want, because I can have what I want, and you can have what you want. Remember, moderation, balance in the middle. When I'm in those moments and I wake up the next morning, I immediately think, okay, if I'm achy, if I'm sore, if I don't feel good, if I feel like, I had too much junk, or maybe we had whatever, I don't know. But when I'm in those moments and I wake up and I'm like, oh, I know why I'm feeling this way. Just be like, yep, I made those decisions. I had that. And I think I don't want to, I identify, I am not going to feel bad about myself when I wake up and feel like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit bloated. I like to know how far off my balance range I'm at, so that I know, hey, I think I might need to, in order to feel physically better, again, it's not the fixation on number, I like to know how far off to the right side I'm at. Like, am I going to need to maybe like take a couple of days fast, and I just kind of like check to see I know my range. And I'm totally happy with staying in the range. And I know this sounds like, oh my gosh, she's being, she's going back on what she was saying about the fixation on a number. My body physicality, when I know the swelling, the bloating from having, what I wanted. I could honestly be fine not checking it, but I check it every once in a while. Again, every once in a while when I have those every once in a while moments. And I allow for it. I am present. I am aware in those moments of indulgence, because those highs come with lows. And it's okay to have your highs as long as we know there is a come down. And it's okay to have the lows. Know that you can rise up as well. And that balance and that moderation is everything about this lifestyle. It's everything that people don't realize and understand, that it doesn't have to be super horrible punishment. It doesn't have to be overly restrictive. It doesn't have to be perfect, completely to the letter, to the T, like a lot of other strictly rigid programs that are out there, as diet culture will tell you to do. You have to take the pill every day and take this weight loss pill every day and only eat X amount of calories. Who the hell wants to do this for the rest of their life? Because, for example, if you do these things where have this strict meal plan for the rest of your life, do you really want to eat like that for the rest of your life? Do you? Do you? Because if the process got you there, what's going to keep you there? Whereas if you integrate a lifestyle of fasting, your body instinctively knows how to fast. It knows when I'm not eating, I'm fasting. Obviously, we're digesting. We know that if it's immediately after, but that's not the point. When we're in these indulgent meals, be present. When we are in these times of fasts, be present. Be aware of the just overall gratitude of what process is going on. If there's food in there, your body is working. It's working, it's digesting. If there's no food in there and you're in a nice fast and you're feeling great, the body is still working. The body is still like, all right, we got energy over here. We're going to burn it. We're going to burn it. We got it. Diet culture doesn't want to have internal processes fix her problem. And I'm going to go a little bit to the rabbit hole before I wrap it up here. And I know I said that a couple times. I'm feeling minorly tangent. I gave you guys a little bit of a warning at the beginning, but the saying that a lot of us have heard before, where there's no money to be made from self-managing, self-sustainable, healthy people. People that know how to keep themselves healthy provide no financial benefit incentive to all these companies that think they have our best interests at heart. They want the dollar. They want the buy-in. They want you to purchase what they're selling. Whereas if you flip it and look at it, okay, do I really need this stuff to fix my health? Probably not. Obviously, in the sense of like medications and stuff, there's the other things to be considered. But when you go to your doctor, a lot of the time, well, I'm noticing now more and more people are advocating for intermittent fasting, and this is awesome. This is the ripples. The ripples are going out. But generally speaking, going to your doctor and wanting to get help, guidance, direction, they're usually going to recommend a prescription to something. Maybe join a gym, join Weight Watchers, whatever, insert some kind of brand external thing. It's becoming, like I said, much more mainstream now that doctors who have patients are advocating for intermittent fasting. And that's incredible. This is awesome. But it's not the norm. It is not the norm. Again, like I said before, whether It's pills, gym memberships, weight loss clubs, or even even surgery. Some doctors will be like, yep, your only option is surgery, which if you're familiar with these procedural costs, we're talking thousands of dollars and a big risk of your health, safety, and well-being. And that doesn't solve the underlying issue that allowed you to put the weight on in the first place. And I don't want that for you guys. So as I've said before, I believe in all of you. I really do. Even if you don't, I can feel it coming again. Even if you are sitting there and you're thinking, I've battled with my weight my whole life. I've tried everything. I don't think I can do this. I'm addicted to food. I've always been told I'd be this size. I'm lonely. I'm alone. My only happiness comes from food. I've been there. Guys, I've been there. I've been there, sitting in the dark, stuff in my face, not feeling like I had anybody to talk to, feeling like nobody wanted to be around me. And this is a direct result of being told of my worthiness from society and culture that is grown and bred from fucked up diet culture that has just gotten more and more screwed up along the years, thinking that we have to thinking that we have to look and be and have our appearance and size and weight be a certain way, and we have to buy into this bullshit product and have to buy into this. No, you don't. That sucks. That whole system, again, I'm sorry if you're sensitive, that whole system fucking sucks. Oh, it sucks so bad. It's so broken. And you all are so wise and intelligent, and we can use common sense and not feel like this is a buy-in. Like that's not, no. Refute it, refuse it. Know that you can empower yourself. As I said before, I believe in every single one of you. Even if you don't, you can do this. If I did this, guys, I know a lot of people are like, if I did this, you can. Like, seriously, I had some fucked up past trauma, okay? If I did this, I'm telling you, if you want to fight for your life, if you want a quality life, do not listen to what diet culture says. I'm telling you, I'm just a lady in Florida, right? Just telling you can do it. This lady in Florida said I could do it. I'm telling you, you can do it. You can. Okay? I believe in you, every single one of you. Don't listen to broken diet culture. It fucking sucks. And you're beautiful and you're intelligent and you're above that. You're above all that. Okay? Have a great rest of your day. Here's a hug. And we'll talk again later. Until then, guys. The Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. Copyright 2022. The information given within this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your doctor before starting any weight loss method. Thank you.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.